The Mommy Collective Mommy Dinner Plug series in Chicago is back on March 11th. It's a curated, intimate night, a real dinner with moms and women who are building, working, creating, and trying to do it all without losing themselves in the process. You'll walk in, get settled, and actually have an easy way to meet people. No awkward networking. No shouting over a crowded bar. No pretending you're fine when you're running on fumes. Just good conversation, good food, and the kind of connections that don't feel transactional. Seats are limited on purpose because the room matters. Grab your seat and head to themommycollective.com/events.
Welcome to the Mommy Collective. I'm Paulina Rowe, radio host, TV contributor, writer, and mom of one. This is where ambitious moms come to keep their identity intact while navigating motherhood. Here we talk about the real stuff: career, money, relationships, identity, and everything that gets messy in between. You won't find sugarcoating or cliches. What you will find are unfiltered conversations, real resources, and proof that you don't have to lose yourself to be a good mom. The Mommy Collective is here to remind you can be ambitious, you can take up space, and you can thrive in motherhood and in everything else that makes you, you. Before we get into the episode, make sure you're following the Mommy Collective on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, and share this podcast with a mommy in your life who needs a little inspiration or just a reminder that she's killing it. Also, don't forget to sign up for our newsletter and leave us a review so we can keep showing up and reach every ambitious mom out there doing big things. Let's get into it. Hello, it's another episode of the Mommy Collective, and today I have a very special guest. I have one of our very own directory members, which is so cool. I love this part. But we've got Armi Grace Petersen joining us today, and you are a dedicated occupational therapist, and you hail from the southwest side of Chicago, just like me. I love it.
Yeah. Hi.
Love it. Hi. Of course. Thanks for being here with us today. Before we dive into all that you do, and you're also a mom of 3 boys. So I think, you deserve all the bow downs right now to you. I don't know how you do it, Queen, but you do it.
I don't.
Well, there you go. I will definitely dive into that. Yes. First things first, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit of a background on you?
Yeah. So I'm Armi Grace Petersen. I go by Armi Grace. I am, as Paulina said, I'm a mom to 3. I married my college sweetheart. We live in the southwest suburbs. I have been an occupational therapist for, oh my gosh, I think this year will be 9 years. Yeah, 9 years. And I worked in outpatient pediatrics, helping kiddos with developmental delays. And then in January 2024, I started my own mom and baby practice. At that time, my youngest was over a year old. Yeah, over a year old. I was still in the depths of postpartum. Mind you, I was pregnant or breastfeeding for about 5 years with only 1 or 2 months not doing that. And we also had a miscarriage in between.
Sorry.
Hey, I think it's important to talk about because nobody talked about that with me. That's a whole other story. But when I became a mom in 2017, I was the first one in my friend group, in my family. And so the motherhood advice I got, with some conversations with, family members, was really from my coworkers at work because they had just had a baby prior and, being thrust into motherhood. Nobody really talked about how lonely and isolating it was. And I was the friend. I was like, oh, she has a baby. We don't have to invite her out. She's probably not able to go. No big deal. And there weren't many resources in my community for moms. It was maybe the nursing group at the local hospital, but there really wasn't anything necessarily being like, hey, this is the perfect place for postpartum moms. And then as my son's first year went along, navigating motherhood and identity, that was really hard for me. And then we actually had a miscarriage when my son was about 15, 16 months old. And that really spearheaded my mental health journey. And at that time, I learned that I actually have had postpartum anxiety this entire time in my son's first year of life, which explained why I don't remember the first 6 months because I was in such high survival mode that my brain wasn't remembering it because I just had to live by it. And, those are things people didn't talk about when I was talking about having a baby. It was like, oh yeah, you're going to have a baby. You're going to have so much fun. But nobody talked about the identity, the relationship with your husband, your partner, your friends, and then your just kind of how you move day to day. Right. And so as time went on, I had my second son who happened after we had a miscarriage, and he happened to be a COVID baby. And then we had a third son who was a post-COVID baby. So again, mental health on top of all that stuff. So it was a really interesting journey. I went on to actually have postpartum depression or a dark time. But at that point, I at least had gotten like the support I needed. I knew all the different tools and resources. And at that time, my husband was like really educated in that. So we got through it. So now fast forward to January 2024, I started my business with hopes of really helping moms in the way that I wish I had been, and kind of being, I'm the oldest, so I never had a big sister. I feel like my personality is I love being the big sister to people because I try to be the big sister that I never had. And so I think that's just my personality in a nutshell. I learned the other day, but I do have 3 kids. I don't do it all. I hate it when actually people are like, I'm not, and I'm like, I don't.
You did say that to me. You said, I don't.
I did. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget my therapist, my first therapist, when I first started therapy after I had the miscarriage, said, you have to lower expectations for yourself, for your partner, and for your children. And I like live by that now. And that's honestly one of the biggest top 3 advices I give to new moms is that you can't function the way that you used to function pre-baby because things are not the same. And giving yourself the grace to do that, nobody really, again, preaches that. It's like the supermom aspect sometimes. And I try to be like, we're not supermom. We have our bad days. I yelled at my kids today, or like, I just sat on the couch and vegged out. I think we need to allow those moments to. Yeah. I hope that answered the question.
Absolutely. No, I love it. I love it. And we're going to dive into that as well. Like, you know, starting your own business, like kind of going solo in a way. And I want to dive into all that as well. Before we do though, I kind of want to dive into the like origin story more of what you've created and what you're doing. You do say pregnancy and postpartum are new and vulnerable seasons. And you did touch on this, but I'm curious, what did that look like for you? If you can remember specific moments or like aspects of that, what did that look like?
I remember in pregnancy, somebody had gifted me what to expect when you're expecting. And me being the straight A, studious student, I was like, oh, I have to read everything and know every little fact. And I loved it. But that was for the first pregnancy. So second pregnancy and third, I'm like, I know I have a baby cooking, but I have 2 older kids. So I got to experience pregnancy in different states.
What did that look like for you as far as like, you know, pregnancy, postpartum being new and vulnerable seasons? Do you remember what that looked like for you personally?
Yes. So, you know, with the pregnancies, my first son, I actually went back to work at the 3-month mark for 4 days a week. And so juggling being a mom, going to work and having that identity. And then my husband and I were very fortunate. Our parents took care of our kids. So my oldest son had 2 days with my parents and then 2 days with my husband's parents. And that was after my first son. Then with my second son, I went back to work 3 days a week and had 2 days. And then with my last son, I went back to work 1 day a week. So I kind of got this like taste of like working mom, 1 day mom, and then like still working mom, but like more hands-on mom. And then with my last one, I was like very hands-on, more along the lines of like stay-at-home mom because I was home. So I got to experience like the different parts of it, but the struggles were still the same. It being like, I need to have an identity. And I learned it after some time. I myself needed an identity outside of my family, outside of my children, because that's what made me a better mom. But initially, my mindset was like, I have to sacrifice all these things. Sacrifice makes me a good mom. I'm not going to go out with my friends or right after work. I'm not going to stay and chat with my coworkers. I'm going to come right home and be with my baby because I had to like switch so fast back and forth during my oldest. But as time went on, I'm like, you know what? Like I'm allowed to have an identity outside of like mom and employee. And I think once I learned to show up for myself and take care of myself, my whole like mindset of things shifted. I wasn't like as resentful. I noticed my self-regulation was better. And I think that's something I really push onto moms is that you're allowed to take care of yourself because well mom, well baby. And people think that the efforts that you invest in a child, right? Like you bring them to classes, you buy them new things, like you think that will help them be successful and thrive. And yes, there is a role that plays, but research shows that it's actually parental mental health and wellness that influences like a child's ability to thrive, which makes sense because if parents are well, they can be present, they are able to have bonding and attachment with their child. And actually, I think it was it 2024? The U.S. Surgeon General actually came out with this like 74-page article about how parents in the U.S. are under stress and what does that do for families.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I believe it. I've always said that. I said, if I'm not going to water my own cup or water my cup, whatever it means, water myself, right? Like if I'm not going to take care of myself,
water.
all of it. If I'm not going to do that, I'm like, I don't know how well of a mom I am showing up as, you know, like I know I'm an amazing mother, but I'm like, this is already hard and I need to make sure that I'm good. So like she's good. And I think that's why my daughter has thrived very much so since quite literally she was born, because I always felt like I poured into her and obviously to myself. So I love that.
Yeah. And they really are little mirrors, and learning to set boundaries is something we've done with our kids. So to be like, well, mommy can't do that right now. Or why can't mommy play with you? Well, mommy just needs a minute. So something I've learned over the years, especially now that I have 3 very energetic kids and a husband, is setting boundaries of like, this is my limit of me giving time of my time to you. Like my kids will sometimes find me like in our bedroom or in my closet, just hiding, like in silence. And, you know, my husband and I will tell our kids, you know what, mommy, daddy just need a minute to themselves. They just need some alone time. And so now our kids, if they don't like want to be around us or they go to their room, like my one middle son, he does all, he goes, I just need some alone time. I just want to be alone. And it's like, you are allowed to have that alone time. Like, that's so great, you know? And so setting those boundaries, or even just kids who just tell you exactly what they want and have like no reservations about it, are the best, because I was so bad at setting boundaries up until, I don't know, but like a year ago. And so for our kids to be like, no, I don't like it, I don't want it, and like there not be like any argument to it, it's like so beautiful, even though as a parent, it's hard to be on the receiving end of like, you know, the power and that stuff. But you're like, yeah, you tell them you don't want that piece of candy and that you don't like it. That's not a flavor you like. Don't let them tell you to take it, you know?
100% agree. I love it. And I know you've kind of touched on this as well, and I would love to dive more into it. You've mentioned postpartum anxiety and postpartum depression, but that is such a conversation that I think is so important to have. So what were your earliest signs that you were like, this isn't just a funk, baby blues, a bad day? What were the signs that led you to that, to know it really was, you know?
I just had a lot of like resentment towards my partner, my husband at the time. I didn't sleep very well. I was sleep deprived, which, you know, to some extent is normal in those early years, but there's a fine line of it impacting your health and well-being. And I just feel like I was just not myself. I was just upset all the time. Things really triggered me easily. And then added to like the motherhood journey, I don't know if you've experienced this, I also was kind of doing some like inner child healing and really reflecting on my childhood and deciding like what mother I wanted to be. And then in therapy, also my therapist is like, yeah, you might have chronic PTSD. And I was like, oh, fun, another added layer to all the things I'm navigating. But yeah, I was angry. I was very triggered. I felt like everything, like my interactions with my husband, the best way I can put it is that my senses, I was such in a state of fight or flight that anything to me that sometimes my husband said was like a bear attacking me. Yes. Or like anything anybody said to me, I just felt like a bear was attacking. And that's how I viewed everything. Everything was even though it was like my husband trying to give constructive feedback or people trying to help, I viewed it as an attack. And like, I just found myself sometimes too, just like not wanting to leave the house because I didn't want to be put in situations where I was going to be uncomfortable and mad. And then I would spend the rest of the day like sulking in my anger and like not being present with my child.
Yeah, no, that's very real. And thank you for opening up about that, because we don't talk about it enough. I really don't think we do.
For sure.
You know,
and two, like, I think it's important too, like, just to kind of identify like how common this is. I've done some course training through Postpartum Support International. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that organization, but they also happen to have like a perinatal mental health certificate course where a lot of like therapists, mental health therapists, some occupational therapists, and some other allied professionals in the perinatal fields will pursue that just to kind of have more education regarding perinatal mental health disorders. So I've taken the 2 courses, and hopefully I'll sit for my exam eventually before the end of the year. But the statistics are 1 in 5 to 7 women have postpartum anxiety or depression. 1 in 5 to 7. That's very common, but we don't talk about. Mm-hmm. And then an interesting fact as well is 1 in 10 dads get postpartum depression. So, they're not exempt from the mental strain of the postpartum period, just might present differently. And so, yeah, sometimes it's definitely more common than you think. And so I've definitely made it a part of my conversations or just kind of my personality to talk about these hard things, because a lot of the time when I do bring it up, someone will be like, oh, and it's like that moment where like your vulnerability has empowered somebody to also be vulnerable in a time where they might have never thought or be allowed to be vulnerable.
Yeah. And that's very honest. I completely agree with you. And I'm so happy that you talked about it with us. So thank you for sharing that. I do really appreciate it. And I know too, like you've said before, that motherhood is hard, but getting support shouldn't be. So what do you think makes support so hard to access? Whether it's like logistically, right? Like getting help and all kinds of help for you or for baby, but obviously too, like emotionally, why is it so hard to access help?
Honestly, I think it's because there has been a normalized idea that motherhood, this is just what it is. And your mother before you, your grandmother, other female figures have just chucked through. And saying and seeking help isn't necessarily the norm because it is like a biological thing that everybody has done. I think that's definitely like one part of the concept. Is that, the other female figures before you don't necessarily infer that support is even an option, because what does that mean if you're a mother who needs help? Then it's the association of you asking for help means you're not a good enough mom. I think that's another concept that really is a barrier to people. And then another idea is that people don't know what support is out there, whether it be formal therapy support or resources in your community, online communities. I think it's that education and awareness.
I completely agree. I think it's always so important, and just, you got to ask for help. Like, I don't care if it kills you, like literally you're like, I can't, like, please do it. You benefit, baby benefits, your partner, your household, the dog, like everyone's going to benefit when you feel good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I 100% agree. There is no shame in that. So thank you again for that. So I want to kind of dive into OT mama, right? Like motivated OT mama. I want to kind of get the background on how that began, because you said that you were working for not a hospital, right? But it was more so like you were, was it a
pediatric outpatient pediatric clinic.
Okay. So like, how did that transition happen for you, and when did that happen, and what made you take the leap?
So I worked at the clinic until about September 2025. Yeah. So I still worked part-time there while I was growing my business and kind of just like learning the ins and outs of it. I appreciated the staff there. They were my first job out of grad school. And, I grew with my fellow coworkers and my bosses. Like, they were great. They were very understanding. And actually, my one boss was very supportive of me during my miscarriage. And she was like the one person that like did talk to me about like, I totally get it. I also had a loss. Like, please take care of yourself. Because I went to work the next day after I naturally passed my miscarriage. It's a whole nother.
Oh no.
Yeah. Because I thought because I had one child, I didn't deserve to grieve losing a child.
Oh, that
was the mental belief I had made myself believe, was that because I already had birthed a child, I had a healthy child, I wasn't allowed to grieve as much as people who had several losses and had no baby, which isn't a valid argument. But then somebody was like, you realize, because I opted to naturally pass my miscarriage. You gave birth 2 days ago, right? You understand that? And I was just like,
whoa, that's a different perspective.
Yeah. And I was
Wow.
like, you're right. I did. And they were like, your body needs to heal. And so my boss at that time was like, take all the time that you need. So I was very thankful for that clinic, for that support, but it was a great environment. I just think where my head was at in terms of my fulfillment in my career, it necessarily wasn't meshing. When you work in a clinic, it's often you have 45 minutes with a client. You are taking insurance. There might be some barriers with insurance. And I found myself giving a lot of education to families and, wanting to deep dive more, but in the time limitations, honestly, I'd probably end up being a kid for like 38 minutes or 40 minutes. I just didn't feel like I was maximizing in my input and in my benefit and the time and the resources. And I really wanted to deep dive further into like mom and baby. And I really focused on not just the child, which is what I did in the clinic. I feel like I really looked at the child, what was going on with the child and went there, but with the work that I do, because now with Motivated OT Mama, I'm in the home. So I get to be in their natural environment. I get to see how parents interact with their children, how the children interact with other siblings, how they interact with their dogs, because it's, the full life spectrum. And so I'm really able to assess like a whole body issue. Like, for example, like with a baby who's having a hard time feeding, right? Like, yes, feeding is such an important piece of that postpartum year, but there's so many things outside of just like the baby getting the milk in the mouth, right? We're looking at mom's body if she's breastfeeding. If they're opting to bottle feed, what does the bottle look like? Who's giving the bottle? When are they giving the bottle? And then it's looking at the baby's body and their development and oral motor skills, body coordination, and then going back to mom and being like, well, how is your pregnancy? How is your birth experience? Because all those things in context impact how mom is showing up for the baby. And if mom is in high stress and doesn't feel supported, that impacts milk supply. And so it's like sometimes like fine tuning it so back that we get there. But then if it's not milk supply, is baby crying and stressed out because mom is stressed out? And I found that a lot of my moms, well, I'll ask them like, are you breathing or are you holding your breath? And they're like, I'm holding my breath. And I'm like, well, baby's natural respiration rate. So if you are, babies aren't going to breathe either. Yeah. So that's why I recommend to my mom, sing to your baby, talk to them. You don't even have to say like cute things. Be like, mom is having a hard time today. We're going to just, there's just like stuff like that. Interesting fact, there was a research study in a class that I took where they gave babies pacifiers and when they sucked on it, music played. And so that music, like the auditory input was really motivating for them. But then when they did the mom's voices, the baby also sucked, but it was more vigorously and stronger. So I always tell my moms, I'm like, the power of your voice can help regulate your baby and make them be more confident and coordinated. Like, and in that power, the power of a mother and just working with mom and baby, not just a baby. And then I do work with some older children too. We work on regulation or some potty training. And again, like potty training, people think like, oh, you're just going to the bathroom. No, again, it's the environment. It's the stressors, the sensory experience. It's maybe there's a mental health thing going on, or I label myself as more of a holistic occupational therapist. So I look at like reflex integration. I do body work. I work with the fascia. We work on vagus nerve stimulation to, calm the nervous system down. So I really look at all of that. And I have had a few families who, within like 4 to 6 visits for my younger kiddos, for my babies, and then maybe like 8 to 10 for my older ones. It ranges, but I've gotten such good feedback, or I've seen progress within 2 weeks or a month from families who have not seen that much progress elsewhere, and they've like gone to services. And so it's being able to be in the place with parents and showing them what I'm doing, but I also like am such a big advocate for parents modeling it after me. So oftentimes with the baby, like I'll show them like how to exercise, how to move the baby, and I'm like, okay, do you feel comfortable doing that? And then same thing with their child, like this is the language I'm using, can you model this with them? And it's not just about helping the child per se, but I'm helping parents feel more confident with parenting and having more tools in their toolbox. My approach to occupational therapy is, have you heard, I think it's a proverb. I forgot who actually says it, but it's give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man how to fish, feed him for life. And that's just my approach to therapy, because my job as an occupational therapist is so that you don't need me anymore. So how can I get you to not need me anymore?
I love that. Oh yeah, I'll be calling you because we have some potty training coming up. So that's something that I'm like, oh boy, we need to get on that like ASAP.
Yeah. I just found it so fulfilling, like what I do now in my practice. Like I just feel so happy like after I leave versus feeling maybe not as fulfilled. Like one of my breastfeeding moms the other day was like, I feel so confident when you're around. Or,
that's so sweet.
Or like, one of my other kids, the mom will be like, yeah, they don't really like other providers. They have a hard time with new people, but they do so well with you. And it's, it kind of aligns with like motherhood and like being the safety net kind of thing. But I'm like creating that environment so that parents are also feeling confident in that journey. And yeah, it's cheesy, but I love it.
No, that's not at all. That's so sweet. And I love what you do. I think that's incredible. And I'm really happy that you bet on yourself to like really dive like fully into that. What are some boundaries or like system changes that you recommend that instantly like lowers a mom's daily nervous system load? So whether that's, I guess, overstimulation, right? Whatever it might be, what do you like? What's like one tip you can share that you recommend?
You're not being attacked by a bear. I feel like we are constantly on the go and moving fast, like even eating, for instance, right? Have you ever just caught yourself just eating, going through the motions? I recently was implementing like, what's the right word? Like better like eating habits, but not necessarily eating, but like chewing my food right away, saying that I'm thankful for the food. I think we don't pause enough. I think we just go. And I think as a result of that go, 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 we are just heightened. And like the slowness of doing nothing can be really scary. But I think we need to just embrace the slowness and the quietness. And I also need to take that advice because I struggle with that. My husband will vouch for me, but.
Oh no, we all 100% do. I completely get you. So when it comes to like community, right? I feel like you're kind of bridging a gap in care, in this specific kind of care. So what does meeting moms where they are, what does that look like in your practice?
Well, it really comes down to being really client-centered. So whoever I work with, whether it's in a group setting or it's within like a one-on-one, I make sure I either have an intake, a written intake, or we have like a pre-phone conversation, because I do want to meet parents, families, moms where they're at, because everybody's on a different journey, right? And so the first thing I do is when a mom tells me something is like, you know what? I hope you know you're a good mom. That's oftentimes like the thing, because as moms, we need somebody to tell us like we're doing it right. Our kids are so lucky to have us. And it's just that pause of somebody being like, someone's acknowledging me for the things I'm doubting myself for are great. And so I'll often start with that, but it's just really presenting with mom, like what is weighing heavy on you and how can I help? And I'll often present, well, this is my approach to things. This is the treatment plan, or this is what I've done well in the past. What are your thoughts on this? And just getting feedback. And I have told my families, I don't take insurance, I'm private pay. So I really place an emphasis on the quality of services that I do. And I tell parents, I want to make the most time of your time and your resources. So if things aren't working for you or you need more, I need you to tell me. And that clear communication between the two of us is really important. And I'm heavy on tools and toolboxes. So I will each one of my families has like a folder. Actually, I might have one in my, do I have one? So when you work together, whether you like come in a group or we have one-on-one services, you'll get like a folder with like different resources. And then I have like a summary sheet of like, this is what we did during this session. And these are your exercises. But I try to come up with like, yes, as a mom of 3 and an OT, I know this is ABCD where you should be at X amount age, but as a parent, like what are you at? What is your capacity at, right? And even like giving families home exercises. Like I don't want families to do an exercise for more than 5 to 10 minutes. because then it's not real part of your day. It's like an extra thing. So I'll tell moms to like habit stack, like you always change a baby's diaper, do tummy time right away. Or you always go to the bathroom, that's when you meditate. Like, so it's figuring out how to just mix in functionality and empowerment in their day.
I love that. I love that. And before we wrap up too, I do want to know, I'm curious, but when moms like come to your classes, your groups, or even like one-on-ones, but what's the emotional transformation that you happen to see the most from these moms?
Good question. There was like so many moms that just like came by in my head. But yeah, there's just moms who are like, you've created such a space that I could share these fears or thoughts without judgment. Like that's a common thing that I've heard from some of my moms. I actually celebrated my 2-year business anniversary and I invited some of my group attendees and we kind of just, had a very casual group and I was just asking for feedback on what I could change, anything improvements. And that was like a common theme was that I allowed them the space to like just be in this like motherhood part and say what's on their heart. And I'm just like, postpartum me would have loved hearing everybody else's story because there's just a part of you sometimes as a mom that you're like, am I the only one that's not doing this? Am I the only one not doing this right? Am I going to ask my kids up forever? And little do you know that like the mom who also dropped her kids off late at school or the mom who brought out the diaper bag has the same thoughts, but it was just never something people talked about or people prep about, in motherhood. It's all very like, it'll be fine. Well, what if I tell you it's okay to not be fine? And then you just cry, which has definitely happened. Definitely shed some tears in my group and in my one-on-one sessions, but it's allowing moms that stay safe.
I agree. If you were to tell a mom, right, one thing that she absolutely had to hear today, like I'm talking tattoo it on my forehead right now, what would that be from you specifically? What would that be?
Your kids are so lucky to have you as a mom and love them and care about them the way that you do.
I think I needed to hear that.
Yeah. It's like that Bluey episode. Do you watch Bluey?
Yes. Which one? Which episode?
Oh, it's the one where Bluey's walking, like catch the race, baby race, I think.
Okay,
and then the neighbor mom of Chili literally looks in the mirror or looks in the camera and goes, "You're doing a great job." She's technically talking to Chili, but she's talking to all of us. So yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet. I'm going to see that. We're a big Bluey family, but you know what's funny about Bluey? I was telling my best friend, I'm like, I feel like Bluey needs to drop new episodes unless we're like rewatching the same ones. I feel like I turn around, it's the same one on. I'm like, TV, then it's on Disney Plus. I'm like, which one are we like? Are there no new episodes?
Yes. Well, the last time I looked, so I think the original writer is no longer part of the writing team.
Oh no!
I don't want to spread rumors, but I feel like I saw an article.
That is spreading rumors on Bluey.
Yeah. But no, I love it. I feel like too, my husband has really gotten into Bluey, and I feel like Bluey has made my husband and me more playful with our kids. Like it's really refreshing. Some of the stuff they do there. Yeah.
It is. I love it. Oh, so good. So, Armi Grace, where can we follow you on social media? Drop a good website to check us out. And I know you do a lot of events too, like in the city, Chicago, and the burbs. Give us everything where we can go.
Yeah, well, you can find me on Instagram at motivatedotmama, and my website is www.motivatedotmama, M-A-M-A is the mama.com. And then I have like an events page on there, all my upcoming groups. I recently been doing like mom-only self-care events, like a craft and chat. I did a vision board night, but hopefully I'll be doing more this year. You can find me on there. I do have like a contact form. If you are interested in services or interested in groups, I do offer free like 15-minute intro calls. So just kind of see like, am I the right fit for you? And if I'm not, I will always give you a resource to further support you. And I'm always happy to chat with like other perinatal professionals. I love doing presentations in the community because people don't even know what occupational therapy is, let alone for mom and baby. And I just want to educate the masses because motherhood is hard, but getting support shouldn't be. So I'm here for all the support too.
I love it. And you're also in our directory. So if anyone's listening that wants to go there, boom, boom, boom. We have you listed. So it's a one-stop shop. I love it. Armi Grace, you're the best. Thank you for being here with us today. We appreciate you.
Thank you. This was so fun.
If you've been saying you need a reset, this is it. The Mommy Collective is hosting The Permission Slip, a live Zoom workshop with psychic Susan Rowland. It's for anyone who's been stuck in overthinking, second-guessing, or feeling like you're carrying everything and still trying to figure out what's next. You'll walk away with more clarity, less noise, and one solid next move you can take right away. Head to themommycollective.com, click events, and find The Permission Slip. See you there.